At this point in the season, some things become certain, but some things don't. As at this point, with 4 rounds remaining, 6 teams have confirmed into the finals, but there's 2 that still needs to be remained. Out of the 2 positions left, 5 teams can realistically put themselves in this position. But who will actually go through? This is the race for the finals. So, as we all know, the NRL regular season is about to wrap up in about 4 rounds. And out of that, the top 6 has been set and 2 spots are remaining. 5 teams potentially vying to get in. But this video is basically going to explain who the teams are, who they will play the next 4 rounds, and who could realistically make it in, and all of the stuff that obviously surrounds it. So from the positions of 7 all the way down to 11, these teams can still potentially make the finals, and they are as so. The Gold Coast Titans currently at 7th place with 20 points. The Canberra Raiders in 8th place with 20 points. In 9th place, the Newcastle Knights with 20 points. In 10th place, the Cronulla Sharks with 18 points. And the St George Dragons in 11th with 18 points. So as you see there, 2-point differential for 5 teams. 3 of the teams, 7th, 8th and 9th, all having the same points, but obviously points difference is in better favour for teams like the Titans and the Raiders, who are currently now situated in the 7th and 8th position. And for the Knights, they're on the outside looking in. So primarily, I don't think this will be what it will be set as, because some teams other than others have a lot harder final runs. Let me explain. So the final 4 games for the Gold Coast Titans are the South Sydney Rabbitohs, the Melbourne Storm, the Newcastle Knights, and the New Zealand Warriors. Now, all 14 games will probably be played in Queensland. I do know that in Queensland, I don't know if this may change or anything, but they are allowing fans to go up to 50% capacity. So it is going to be a very interesting situation. Now, obviously, the Titans have probably got the hardest run out for the final 4 games out of anybody, as they take on second and first in the first 2 games, then play the Knights, who are obviously one of the other teams vying for the finals, and then take on the Warriors, which should be a fairly interesting match. So in terms of how I'm going to predict for the Titans is, you just don't see the Rabbitohs and the Storm letting up to the Titans at this point. How they might get a dub over the Knights and maybe over the Warriors. So probably at best, confidently, I could probably say they could get 2 wins and they'll move them up to 24 points. So still in fairly good contention, you'd hope to say. But then again, that's being optimistic. They could lose to the Knights as well, and then they could be in some serious shit. Now the Canberra Raiders are currently situated in 8th place, who on the same points as the Titans. However, due to the points differential for and against, the Titans have -2, whilst the Canberra Raiders have -74. So obviously, getting more points than... Basically, it's like getting more points than the Knights is the most preferable, because even if the Knights tie with them, they'll have that positive negative depending on how royally screwed up against. So for the Raiders, their final 4 games are the Melbourne Storm, the Manly Sea Eagles, the New Zealand Warriors, and the Sydney Roosters. Now again, the first 2 games are going to be pretty tough. Storm obviously probably come in for that. Canberra did beat Manly in the first leg. Not first leg, the earlier season. But I do feel like Manly will step up for a charge to try to get into the to the top 4. The Warriors, again, could be very situational. Canberra could either blitz the Warriors or play down to their opponents, which they have done over the last couple of weeks. And then they play the Roosters. The Roosters are coming off a loss to the Panthers, but probably by the end of that point, they should probably charge up. So I'll give them, realistically, I'll give them like one win. Optimistically, if they can beat the Roosters, but I highly doubt, or even Manly if it's close. So that's going to be the charge for that. Now we move on to 9th place, which is the Newcastle Knights, my team, who are on 20 points, but because of their negative 139 points difference, has put them on the outside looking in. But out of the teams tied on 20 points, the Knights have probably the easiest run home. It's easiest, but the less difficult one, as they take on the Cronulla Sharks, the Canterbury Bulldogs, the Gold Coast Titans, and the Brisbane Broncos. So obviously the Sharks are in 10th place, so 2 points behind. So a win for the Knights will be big. If the Titans and the Raiders, so if the Titans don't beat the Rabbitohs, and the Raiders don't beat the Storm, which in my honest opinion won't happen, and if the Knights lose to the Sharks, then you're gonna have 4 teams on 20 points going into, or 5 technically, if the team 11 gets their results. But you see there, then it comes into a bit of a oh shit. But the Knights should get over the line. Then they play the Bulldogs, who obviously are coming last, but the Knights have had a bit of a habit of right at the end of the season playing the Bulldogs. All of a sudden, the Bulldogs somehow get a win over us. And it's going to be interesting looking at that. Then you got the Knights against the Titans, and if the Titans do lose their first 2 games, which I am predicting will happen, then it's turning into a Titans must win against the Knights to stay in it, basically. And then the Knights play the Broncos. They did beat the Broncos early a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't really that convincing because the Knights have been a little bit sloppy. So that's going to be the big thing for that, is if they switch on defensively and not get lazy. So I do feel that out of these 5 teams, the Knights are probably one of the more favourable ways to get into the finals, but knowing the Knights, there might be, for all we know, the Knights might lose all 4 of them. Like, we don't know. Now we go down to the 2 18 points teams. The number 10 with the Cronulla Sharks, of course, needing to get some results in their favour as they take on the Knights, the Tigers, the Broncos, and the Storm. So of course, if they get a win against the Knights, and you can have and if the other results go their way, you're going to have 4 teams on 20 points. Then they play the Tigers. The Tigers have been a bit lackluster, but you never know. But right near the end of the season, they might switch on. Broncos are in the same position with the Knights playing. It's like you never know. And then you got to play the Storm in the final game. And if it does come down to it, the Sharks need to beat the Storm to get into the finals. It's just not looking all too promising. But I do feel like the Sharks can win the first 3 games, and then that will take them up to 24 points. Then they would need but 2 out of the 3, the 7th, 8th, and 9th teams to basically to just choke is precisely what they want. But yes, I do feel like it is possible, but it's a bit out there. And then finally, with position number 11, the St. George Dragons on 18 points on a negative 30 away from the Sharks. So it's if it does come down to that. So the Dragons will take on the Panthers, the Roosters, the Cowboys, and the Rabbitohs. Now you got 3 teams there for the Dragons who are in the top 6. You got the Panthers who are starting to get back on a roll. Then they play the Roosters, who are trying to get themselves up into the top 4. The Cowboys have been a bit, I don't even know what the hell's going on with the Cowboys. And then you got the Rabbitohs, who are probably on, well, not on par, but like very good, to say the very least. So it would be a bit hard, but if the Dragons can pull some like gutsy wins, they can make the finals. They can, doesn't mean they will though. If I was to pick personally the 2 teams that will go in from these forms, I would probably have to go because I did I did like the predicted like the of the ladders and stuff like that from all the results, and I put all my findings here. So from the results, I believe that it will be the 7th and 8th position will be taken by the Gold Coast Titans and the Newcastle Knights. And from the research there, I've even given the Knights the loss if they lose their last 2 games. So that's what I feel will happen. I think the Knights and Titans will feel at the 7th and 8th position. And you see how from some of the changes, that's probably what I feel like the final ladder will be. So what do you guys think in the comments below? Let me know. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you later.